and these are my 5 audience members. There are many speeches that people can say have brought betterment to the world or anyone around them, and can easily argue why they believe that. There is one speech, though, that above all others really connects with me. I feel I can easily argue why the speech promoted national benefit and its importance to me. This speech was given on January 28, 1986 by our 40th President of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan. This speech is known as the Challenger Speech, and it was broadcasted to all Americans after the tragic explosion of the Challenger rocket ship near Cape Canaveral. The Challenger was carrying 6 astronauts who include Michael Smith, Dick Scobie, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, and Gregory Jarvis. There was also one teacher who had won the right to be a passenger on the flight named Krista McAuliffe. All of their lives were lost that day, and it probably made many Americans fear what the future holds for space exploration. Everyone knew the dangers that came with space exploration, but seeing them yourself is terrifying. The Challenger was a stepping stone towards space exploration that humanity just happened to miss this time. I want to talk about some of the background now of Ronald Reagan and how he may have become such an influential speaker. Ronald Reagan was born on February 6, 1911, in Tampico, Illinois. He was also raised in Tampico, Illinois by his parents, Neil Clyde and Jack Reagan. Reagan graduated from Eureka College in 1932 and worked as a sports announcer for several radio stations. He later moved to Hollywood and became a renowned actor known for parts in Newt Rock, Shoot Rock, Kings Row, and Bedtime for Bonzo. He has also played a part in many other movies. This leads into another very important part of Ronald Reagan's speech background. Reagan then became a motivational speaker at General Electric factories. This and the combination of his acting made him very good at speaking in front of others and a camera. Clearly speaking has been a very large part of Reagan's life, and has influenced his ability to convey strong and influential messages to others. He then later begins his political career by being elected governor of California in 1966. He made really great budget changes for California and helped the state financially quite a bit. He was re-elected in 1970 because of the great job he had done in his previous term as governor. In 1968, he ran to be the Republican presidential nomination, but lost to Richard Nixon, who later won the presidency for the Republicans. He then later ran again for the Republican presidential nomination and lost yet again to Gerald Ford, who became president in that election. After Ford's first term, he resigned to not run for president again, giving Reagan his opportunity to take over. He was later elected president of the United States in 1981 and ran for his second term with success in 1985. During Reagan's second term, the Challenger disaster occurs, and it brings about one very influential speech. Prior to the Challenger disaster, NASA had plans to do a satellite mission for a few different reasons. The first reason was to do several lessons from space with the Teacher in Space project. The second reason was to get a better visual of Halley's Comet, which comes by the Earth every 75 to 76 years, which means it is pretty much a rare occurrence and a once-in-a-lifetime ordeal. NASA had some really good plans for this mission, and although they knew there were some dangers, nobody expected this outcome. But what really caused the disaster in the first place, as found by Carl Tate in the article, The Space Shuttle Challenger Disaster, What Happened, the first thing was temperature, which was 20 degrees colder than the previous lowest temperature launch in recorded history. This, we found out, later caused a certain sealing between the fuel tanks to be weakened. As the shuttle ascended, one of the seals on a booster rocket opened enough to allow a plume of exhaust to leak out. Hot gases bathed the hull of the cold external tank full of liquid oxygen and hydrogen until the tank ruptured. All this useful information given in Tate's article is very helpful in determining the cause of this disaster. It also sheds light on the fact that this disaster could have been avoided with the right precautions. It also could have sparked outrage in Americans knowing this could have been easily prevented as well. Lastly, this is all could have gotten NASA shut down completely for its lack of preparation on the mission. This all leads us to the speech that Ronald Reagan had to give to a grieving country. There were many things that led to this speech, as I have spoken about already. Nobody could have imagined how Reagan could give this speech of this horrible disaster to our nation. In Justin W. Moyer's article, Exactly the Right Words, Exactly the Right Way, Reagan's Amazing Challenger Disaster Speech, He talks about how Reagan had to give a speech to 8-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and also 80-year-olds. His speech had to make all of them understand the same thing without patronizing anyone. And Reagan does exactly that. He explains how the members of the crew knew what they were getting into and knew they were taking risks for the betterment of the world. He explains that nothing is easy, and especially not space travel. He says that the future does not belong to the faint-hearted, it belongs to the brave. He acknowledges the issues that occurred and states that we all know they're there and we have no reason to hide them. I believe this speech that he gave saved the belief of all Americans in our space program. Without this speech, we could be so much further behind than what we currently are with our program. Out of fear, we could have missed out on projects such as the International Space Station and many other very important rockets we have launched to explore our solar system and further reaches of the universe. He also prevented outrage from Americans from the result of the mission being preventable. With this speech, we understand that we must continue to strive forward towards the next frontier, otherwise their lives were lost for nothing. Space exploration isn't just for us to understand it, but to challenge ourselves to reach out there and find what is beyond our own world. Ronald Reagan's speech brings betterment to all of America by keeping us together in our journey towards space and keeping us fearless along the way. Thank you.